It's Monday, November 11th, 2019. Digital Trends Live is about to start. Here are some of the topics we're covering today. SpaceX has had yet another successful launch in their goal to blanket the globe in internet satellites as part of Starlink. We'll cover some of the monumental moments achieved this morning. And we've got some great guests on this episode, including Sheena Tharnish, the Vice President of Cybersecurity Product Management at Comcast Business, will provide some online safety tips. Our own Davin Matthews will join us to talk about some recent news from Adobe Max, where Photoshop for iPad was released. He'll let us know how it works and take live questions about the service. Plus, Steve Goody, the CEO of Pocket Radar, will talk about their speed tracking technology that can not only help out athletes and coaches, but can probably help settle some of those bets that you have at home about who has the fastest swing. All of that and more coming up on today's episode of Digital Trends Live. And this is Digital Trends Live. Thank you for joining us. Happy Veterans Day, everyone, wherever you are watching from. We do appreciate it. We're live here every single weekday, 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern, bringing you tech headlines, news, interviews, discussions, and so much more. And we are broadcasting from the Samsung QLED 4K studio, broadcasting across a number of different platforms. We're on Periscope, Twitter, Twitch, Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, Dailymotion, Apple News, 2 different mobile apps, a smart television app, and at digitaltrends.com/live. So wherever you find us, you can join in the conversation. Let us know what you want to talk about. We've got a lot to discuss today. To start off, I'm Greg Nibbler, joined by Mr. Luke Larson. Hello, Luke.
Good morning, Greg.
Good morning. A lot to talk about today.
Yeah.
A lot going on in technology, it turns out, which is good for us.
Shocking.
Shocking news. Let's get started here. So there's a few things we want to get to, but first off, there is a trending story going on right now that has to do with Uber and their CEO and some pretty astonishing comments that he made on an interview on HBO's Axios news program. So here's what happened. We've actually got the footage itself that we want to kind of roll here that would explain a little bit more what he said. We're going to analyze it, so I want to hear your comments about this as well. But if we can, let's go ahead and take that full here right now.
In your opinion, he represents and works for a government which you believe had a role in the murder of a journalist who was a U.S. resident. Should that person be on the board of a U.S. company?
I think that government said that they made a mistake.
Well, they made a mistake and somebody's dead.
Well, listen, it's a serious mistake. We've made mistakes too, right? With self-driving, and we stopped driving, and we're recovering from that mistake.
So there we go. That is what the Uber CEO, Dara Khosrowshahi, want to make sure I got his name right, Dara Khosrowshahi. So he is the one who made that comment about Saudi Arabia. And pretty amazing comparison, and not in a good way, that he just made to what happened to the journalist Khashoggi, comparing theirs with the Uber self-driving incidents that they've had. They're trying to walk this back now, but that's a pretty huge error, I feel like, on Uber's part.
So was the answer to a question specifically about Uber in some way?
Well, so let's walk through it here just a little bit. So Saudi Arabia is invested in, they actually have I believe the 5th largest investor in Uber. I'll get that exactly correct, but I believe that's where they're at. Yeah, 5th largest shareholder in Uber being public now. And the question was just about Saudi Arabia's involvement. In particular, one of the head of the wealth fund, Yasir bin Atham Al Rumayyan, who's on Uber's board. And it was about their involvement and just about the Saudi government in general. And this is when Dara the Uber CEO, brought up this comparison saying, well, you know, they've made some mistakes, talking about Jamal Khashoggi, who's kind of asked a question about that. And he said, yeah, you know, they made a mistake, but it was a bad mistake, but they're figured it out. They're learning from it. I feel like the murder of a journalist is not a mistake.
Yeah.
Not something that you can just wash over and call, oh, that was an error. And this is coming from people in the media. Sorry, I find that pretty upsetting, and that's not something that's okay, no matter what it is. And this is what we're talking about with this. So this is them now trying to walk this back, but that comparison is leading to a lot of talk on Twitter. There's a boycott Uber movement, and this is why, since we're live, I want to know what your thoughts are on this. How do you feel about this statement, even if it was a slip up, which he's trying to say now? He did come back and say after the interview was over, he told Axios that I didn't mean it that way.
Well, so many slip ups.
So many slip ups.
They accidentally killed somebody. He accidentally said it.
Right.
To something else.
And this is why I just can't look at it in that way. I mean, that is such a huge, huge error of judgment. And to me, I guess I'll skip my opinions on it. Clearly, I have some opinions. I have some pretty big opinions about this. But as far as how this affects and what this means for Uber, I guess, Luke, let me ask you. How do you feel about this statement? What do you think this means?
I mean, it's yet another in a long series of Uber controversies. You know, and you mentioned like boycott Uber. It's like, how many times has that happened at this
And that's
point,
true.
you know?
It's happened so many
There's
times.
been so many boycotts and attempts to, you know, just kind of bring this stuff up that will make a meaningful difference. I don't know if it does.
Yeah. But that's where we're at.
I try to use Lyft. But,
Yeah.
you know, Lyft has their own problems too. But
And that's true. This is definitely a big one. I mean, I think this is just kind of coming out right now. So the interview aired yesterday. So the fallout, we're still going to see what's going to happen with that. But certainly a big issue. And it comes on the heels of a number of different things going on with Saudi Arabia in general, the interference going on with Twitter, where they had secretly hired or bribed a couple of Twitter employees to start releasing the names of people on Twitter, giving their actual IDs to the Saudi government. So it's more of this. I guess the more prevalence of Saudi Arabia being involved with our tech firms, and that's just something that I think fallout like this is going to have some more wide-reaching implications just based on what's going on so far. But again, like you said, we've seen it before. Will this just fizzle out and just end up being nothing?
yeah, and it reminds me of even some of the stuff we're facing with China's involvement in certain companies and how, you know, beloved companies that whether that's in gaming or in, you know, tech in general, like we have to be aware of these other countries and how they're contributing to these companies and how that affects the actual products that we use or services like Uber.
Right.
There is an effect, you know. We shouldn't. I don't think we should just be like, we're afraid of it, you know, every other country then getting involved, you know. But we should be aware.
Be aware of what's going on.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to human rights and those kinds of issues too.
Right, and I mean, it'd be interesting, like if we didn't know that Saudi Arabia was this big of a contributor to Uber, and they had said this, we would have been like, that's kind of a weird thing for Uber to say.
Right.
But then, you know, knowing that, you know, Saudi Arabia is involved, it does kind of make sense.
Yeah.
And it's like, not a good look.
Not a good look.
Uber.
Not a good look at all. And we'll have to see where it goes. But that's the trending story right now. And that's what we try to bring you is what's trending in the world of technology. And that's certainly one of the biggest stories today as far as what's trending. So you can check out more about that at digitaltrends.com. Let's continue on with some other news that's going on right now and talk about SpaceX. This is something we anticipated was going to be happening today. It got slightly delayed by about a half hour, 40 minutes, but it did happen. And that is SpaceX launching another 60 Starlink satellites into orbit and setting those up there. So this is part of their goal with Starlink to encompass the globe in satellite internet. And they are so far knocking it out of the park with their goal to do this. So this launch this morning, there's the actual footage. It's always so much fun. I love these. I love this footage when they showcase this. But yeah, another launch of it, and a couple of key things happening with this. So this is using the Falcon 9, rocket. This is the fourth time that particular rocket has been used. 4 times. It's designed to be used up to 10 times, apparently. And this fourth time that it was used, the first time that they've used one 4 times, I mean, so cool.
Just the fact that they're reusing it and
Yep.
You said this is the 4th time?
The 4th time for this particular rocket, that this has been used. It also successfully landed. We've got footage of all kinds of stuff here. So there is a successful landing as well. That's it, kind of heading up there into orbit and taking that payload of 60 satellites they're going to be dispersed into orbit, which it sounds like that was successful as well. Again, all that happening this morning. It is kind of amazing just how fast. You know, that was a minute and a half up, and then boom, you can already see the globe underneath. Like just how quickly and how fast they're going. Yeah, 2 minutes, 43 seconds, and it's already dumping the Falcon 9 rocket. So that did successfully re-land, which means they can use it again, landing on a pad out in the ocean. They also had I want to make sure the fairing, which is what protects the rocket itself when it's going into orbit.
Which is what we saw drop out, right?
I think that was the Falcon 9 that we saw drop out.
Okay.
I could have that wrong. We'll have to double check on that. But the fairing's actually another. Actually that was the rocket. The fairing's another side of it. Okay. But that does come back down as well. It's caught in usually nets out at sea. I don't know if they caught it or not. I haven't checked on that part. But that's the second time that they've used that. Yeah, it's just crazy.
Just
It's
10
a big
people with
net.
like a net trying to.
but that was used earlier this year on the Arabsat 6 satellite. So that's another thing that's reused. And that's part of this whole goal of this reusable tech for this just makes it so much cheaper and more feasible to do things like this. Now, the 60 satellites is part of an overall goal of up to 30,000 satellites.
Nice.
30,000 satellites that they want to put up for this.
Yeah, it's weird that, I mean, I guess you need that many to cover the entire world. And
if you want to cover the entire globe,
fast internet.
Yeah, that's I guess what you need to do. But they've got now 120 up there that'll be up there and slowly going online. There is talk though that they said that they may even have this service available mid next year for parts of North America. So that's what they're targeting first is North America. It's what it sounds like anyway. And again, all this is tentative to change. There can always be delays or differences, or it depends on how many they get up, because they're going to need a lot of launches if they want to get 30,000 satellites up there at 60 a time. But yeah, this is something that we could be getting before too long. Pretty amazing.
So the idea here is to actually, I'm just reading that it's to serve people who have connectivity today in developed areas, but it's also very expensive. So this is like an actual competitor to the internet that we use right now.
Yep.
Basically.
And we don't know how much it's going to be, but yeah, it's that idea of connection no matter where you are, no matter what. And those rural areas that need internet connection, I mean, that's huge, and I think a lot of people forget about that. There's vast amounts of the globe do not have access to internet, to high-speed internet at least, and this could be a definite.
If you're coming from a satellite, it really doesn't matter that you live in a town outside the city or whatever.
Anywhere.
Yeah.
Which is terrible for me for my camping trips, because that's when I don't want connection.
Your only chance to unplug.
Right, yeah. So I'll just have to pretend I don't have connection there. But regardless, that's what SpaceX is doing, and follow up with that at digitaltrends.com. Always exciting stuff, though, to find out about when it comes to commercial space travel. All right, moving on. We have another big thing today, especially if you are in China or parts of Asia. It is Singles Day. Singles Day is going on. Now, this is Alibaba's basically made up holiday. It's like a Prime Day. It's like any of those. It's a buying day. And Singles Day is one that goes on in Asia. So in case anybody doesn't know, I mean, this thing is huge. It's probably the biggest in the world. Actually, I've got some statistics that would back that up. But Singles Day started off in China, where it was essentially, they created a day for single people to go out and celebrate themselves.
Treat yourself.
Exactly. Also known as treat yourself. So that's what it started off as, and then it's spun into this gigantic commercial holiday where Alibaba has all these sales, and Alibaba's kind of like the Amazon and eBay, maybe combined of China, I guess would be a way to look at it. It's online shopping, but it's enormous. And Amazon actually has not a huge presence in China. They're not that big in large part, I think, because of Alibaba. But this is enormous. So they did, in the first minute, they did $1 billion of sales. In 1 minute, $1 billion.
Their website must hold up pretty well to all that traffic.
Yeah,
if that many people are ordering at the same time.
And that's just Alibaba. That doesn't count the other websites that try to go in on this. Taylor Swift was the star of the coverage, so they have like concerts associated with it and all these kinds of things. It looks like, from what I've seen so far from the reports, that the total spending was over $30 billion, which I believe is just over Black Monday, Cyber Monday, and Prime Day combined, or excuse me. Black Friday, Cyber Monday, and Prime Day combined.
Which are basically our three big made-up
holidays.
Made-up holidays.
Yeah.
Basically just for shopping.
I mean, it's just insane. So that's something that you can read up on, but it's something to be aware of. There's about 500 million shoppers that they believe, I believe is what it was, and we'll find out more information as the statistics come in. But 500 million people shopping. That's more than the population of the U.S.
Yeah.
Bought something.
It's such a funny holiday, too, because you'd think, I mean, yeah, there are single people and there are not single people, but it's like, I'm sure everybody, it just turns into like everybody.
It just turned into an
You don't have to prove your singleness to click through on the deals.
They'll still take your money.
They'll still
take your money. So that's something that you can follow up on at digitaltrends.com. So just pretty interesting having to do with Singles Day. And the final thing here that we're going to talk about has to do with Disney Plus. Disney Plus, it's less than 24 hours away from where you can actually watch shows on Disney Plus. Now, here's the thing. We know that The Mandalorian's going to be coming out. We know there's a whole slew of programming. We have details on all of that at digitaltrends.com that you can take a look at about what you're going to be able to watch. The problem is we don't know exactly when you're going to be able to watch.
Which is weird.
It's weird. you can't even download, as of right now, you can't even download the app yet. They haven't let you know. So if you signed up for it, which I did, you got a welcome email. It's like, oh yeah, and then there's a countdown page that's to the day, but it doesn't
to
tell
midnight or like till.
I believe it's to midnight. I'll have to double check that.
Yeah.
But it's essentially, we don't know when you can download the app, when you can actually get a hold of that, at least as of right now. And unless they've released something since then. But this is what I wanted to bring this up. So what I expect today is, at some point, Disney Plus is going to make an announcement saying the app's going to be available at this time, or it's up right now and it'll go live on all the different services, and then the internet's going to explode.
Yeah.
And everybody's going to freak out, and
The service will probably
download it.
shut down.
Service will probably shut down, and everybody will analyze what they see. So expect that coming up today, that we're going to see a lot of information about Disney Plus, and then tomorrow is when it launches.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of the scary thing about launching a show like The Mandalorian that's so big and so hyped, like literally at the same time as the service. Like I'm just how is this gonna go? It's
right.
just-
That's a bold move.
Yeah.
Because if so many people download it and it crashes,
Yeah.
it's not going to be a good look.
Like, put it out a week ahead.
Yeah.
Give yourself some testing before, like, literally everyone is watching the same show at the same time.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well.
It's gonna be.
Well-
I'm not gonna be. Actually, I'm gonna watch it a couple days later. I wouldn't be happy though if I was watching it right when it came out and then shut
Then
down. in the
it
middle of
crashed in the middle of
Yeah.
it? Well, we'll have to see, but we'll definitely be getting more information. That's going to be a huge part of everything going on in technology coming up. So I know we need to get to a break. I want to say thank you to everybody who's watching live. We appreciate it, and we're live. We can take your comments. We're going to talk about comments coming up next. We're going to take a break. Going to come back with some Read 'em and Weep, where we take a look at comments that are going on across the internet right now and on our site. We will read those live. We have not seen them. You will get our actual live responses, whatever that may be. So stick around. Back here in a minute with more Digital Trends Live.
Apollo 11, your go for separation.
TV is making history again. The groundbreaking Samsung QLED 8K.
Welcome back to Digital Trends Live. Again, thanks for joining us. Hit that subscribe button. That way you get the notifications when we go live for whatever the case may be. But right now, it's time for Read 'em and Weep. I'm Greg Nibbler here with Luke Larson. We're going to take a look at some of the comments that have come through across the many different platforms of the internet, whatever the internet may have up. And we will take a look at those, and we'll be seeing those live as we go through. So let's take a look at this. All right, the U.S. Army honoring those who served, there we go, the night before American soldiers. There's a lot of text in this. The night before American soldiers stormed the beaches of Normandy, Joseph Riley and the 101st parachuted behind enemy lines, followed by Keegan Barber, Veterans Day, Army history. Yes, indeed. And happy Veterans Day to everybody out there who is a veteran. We appreciate your service. I expect that there's probably a lot of that that's going on online right now. But yeah, happy Veterans Day. Jeff Bezos. Congrats to David and all the veterans graduating from the Amazon Apprenticeship Program who are now in technical careers. They joined the more than 21,000 veterans and military spouses working at Amazon. Huge thank you to them and all who've served. Amazon warriors. I feel a little bit weird about that one. But, I mean, that does show how huge Amazon is. Good Lord. They have 21,000 veterans alone that work for Amazon.
It's kind of nuts.
Isn't that nuts? Yeah. And that's what we're looking at right there. But, yeah, congrats to the veterans. And, again, jobs are important. So working in the technical careers. All right, Damon. Finally, a great invention. Where were you, Elon Musk? This robot feeds you tomatoes while you run. Okay, the tomato feeding robot is a hot button issue.
Yeah.
Here at Digital Trends. Now, if you watch Digital Trends Live, this airs in some of our commercial breaks where we actually have these going on. And it's essentially this. It's a guy who invented a backpack that has arms on it, arms of a robot, that will feed you tomatoes while you run.
Okay.
So it's hands-free tomato eating.
And none of that is a problem. All that is great. But the tomato is the problem.
The tomato is the issue that you have with
The
it.
tomato itself is the issue.
Well, the man just loves tomatoes. That's really
Am
what
I
it comes
missing
down
something
to.
about
No, it turns out
running and tomatoes?
No,
Is there a
I mean, tomatoes are
nutritional
healthy and all,
thing?
but there is no actual marked health benefit to eating a tomato while you run, other than, it's got some water in it. That's about it. You really don't need it, let alone the weight of carrying the robot on your back. That would go against it. But however, this man is a genius, and I really want to get the tomato robot man on the show. I would love to interview him. I want to see it in here.
If
I'm not
just-
even a big tomato fan, but I'm a fan of his.
I'd just like to ask him the question, why tomatoes?
Why tomatoes?
Yeah.
Yeah, these are the questions we need to get to the bottom of. So we're going to do our best to do that. Probably not. I don't think anybody else will, but I'll try to make it happen. I'll say it enough times where it has to happen. All right, at Vice Captain, the poor error was pointed out by hundreds of people dozens of times, but Digital Trends is so single-minded in copy its tweets that it never bothered to correct it. It means there is no use of replying to Digital Trends because they never check their timeline. Well, Vice Captain, I'm not sure what you're addressing right there. I don't know that, but we are addressing you directly right now.
We are.
Yes, and Luke, let me ask you, do you have anything you would like to say to Vice Captain?
Just
About
want to
this-
salute since he's a vice captain. Is that a rank?
I'm not sure. It's a rank on the internet.
It's a internet rank.
Yeah, it is there.
Yeah, we're responding right now. And
Yeah.
I just wish we knew what the poor error was.
But regardless, we check our timeline. So, I mean, that's 100%. It doesn't always mean we're going to reply. Let's do it. I'm just going to give you a secret on that part. But we do check it, and thank you for writing that. We'll see if we can get to the bottom of that. Kevin Bradshaw on YouTube regarding Powerbeats Pro versus Klipsch T5. Apple's AirPods Amateur are not a great product. That's moronic. Well, I mean, I'll say that I don't think it's necessarily moronic.
I don't know because he's responding to a video that's about Powerbeats Pro versus the Klipsch T5.
Yeah.
So AirPods are not in there. So
Yeah,
it must
there's
be
nothing about
responding to somebody who was like, AirPods are better than both of those.
This is somebody who's really got something personal about Powerbeats, I feel like.
Oh.
Something about this. I wonder if Kevin Bradshaw submitted a demo tape to Dr. Dre back in the day. It was turned down, and now he's taking it out on our reviews of Powerbeats Pro. I think I've got to the bottom of it. K-Brad, sorry, man.
You should have included your SoundCloud link in there.
Yeah.
You might have got some air.
We'd be happy to review that if that's the case, whatever it is. All right, David Gardner regarding is vaping safer than smoking? The deets, wall-to-wall bovine excrement, half-truths, pseudoscience, and corrupt data. I appreciate, the bovine excrement. That's a creative use. I'll give you that, David, that one there. Man, people get real upset about their vaping.
Yeah, and I'm guessing
Real
he's
worked
a
up.
pro vapor.
I'm gonna guess pro.
Yeah.
I'm gonna guess pro. Yeah, that's it's a whole community. I was not aware of how passionate they were about this, and I know now I'm probably gonna get emails from the vaping community. No offense, we just didn't know how passionate you were. However, the half-truths, I'm not really sure about that. I think that we do a pretty good job of vetting the information, just presenting it. Now, you may not like it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's fine. Opinions are fine, but I think it's probably not half-truths.
Yeah.
That's where I'm going to go with that. Send your emails in to lukelarson@digitaltrends.com. All right, let's do this. Let's take a break because we have, coming up, we have Sheena Tharnish, who's the Vice President of Cybersecurity Product Management at Comcast. We're going to talk about online security, some tips and tricks that you can do, some of the different platforms that Comcast has. That's coming up. Before we do that, thank you, though, to Luke.
Yeah, glad to be here.
Always nice to have Luke on the show. We've got a lot coming up. So we've got Sheena next. We also have Davin Matthews who's going to be in here talking about some of Adobe's announcements from Adobe Max. So we'll be covering that. So stick around. Back here in a minute with more Digital Trends Live.
Apollo 11, your go for separation.
TV is making history again. The groundbreaking Samsung QLED 8K.
This is Digital Trends Live. I'm Greg Nibbler. Thanks for joining us. We're live. That means we can take your comments and questions as we go throughout the show, and we do appreciate that. On whatever platform you're on, feel free to share the show as well. And we like to keep you up to date on everything that's going on in the world of technology and certainly online security, cybersecurity. This is a big issue for all of us. It doesn't matter where you're at in the spectrum. This is a huge thing, and we're going to talk about that right now. We have joining us Sheena Tharnish, who is the Vice President of Cybersecurity Product Management at Comcast Business. Sheena, thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, thanks for having me.
I'm excited to talk about this. I want to get a little bit of your background, if we could, just talking about your role in this realm. Vice President of Cybersecurity Product Management is an incredible title. So maybe we could talk a little bit about what that means and what your role is in this.
Sure. So I'm with Comcast Business, and my role is to develop cybersecurity products that serve our business customers. So that goes from our small business customers that have broadband internet connectivity with us, all the way up through enterprise level, large corporations that work with us.
Could we talk about some maybe big level statistics, some overall statistics, or something just as far as how big of a threat how big cyber threats are, I guess, to businesses, and what some of the main concerns are right now?
Yeah, so, there was one statistic I saw from Malwarebytes that says that cybersecurity has increased 365% cybercrime since 2018. So the volume is just continues to grow and grow and grow year over year. From a small business perspective, there's statistics out there that show the impact to them really could cause them to go out of business. 60% of after they have a breach could just not be able to recover because of the damages and the time it takes to get all the data back.
I mean, that's a terrifying statistic, and something that, it's very sobering that I think people really should know about. What are some of the different kinds of attacks that are trending right now, or that small businesses would be vulnerable to? And then we'll talk about some of the solutions to that.
Yeah, so all of us get a phishing email probably daily these days. So, small businesses are subject to those same phishing attempts. Those emails that come in are looking more and more realistic as well. So, it's getting more convincing for businesses and consumers just to click on those links and to believe what's coming across. And then they're subject to sharing, critical information, private information with an end user or end cyber domain that is not what they had anticipated it was. So phishing is a huge deal, not just for small businesses, but for large organizations. It just continues to get more and more realistic. Also, I'd say ransomware is a huge threat. Also often comes in the form of email. And more, we click links that you could download a malicious file to your computer. And then there's also botnet infections that happen with all these peripheral devices in a business that could be a printer, a thermostat. Those are also connected to the internet and can be used for cybercrime.
Is it because these phishing attacks are becoming more sophisticated that people are clicking on these links, or is it just because people just, and to be honest, and this can happen to all of us, just don't pay attention and just click through things without actually reading what they're clicking on? Or are they really that good that they're masking it that well?
I think it's both. In large companies like Comcast, we do a lot of training of employees and we've learned to not click on links. But unless you're educating your users and your employees in your business, people may not know that that could cause a lot of harm. Also, with the number of devices we all have, it's not just one anymore. Somebody could have 5 different devices and you're click happy. It may be really easy to click on that link without just really thinking about it twice.
Well, looking at it from where we're at right now, and with all of these threats that are out there, what are some different ways that businesses, small or big, I suppose, either way, can work to protect their business from these kinds of threats?
So Comcast Business actually launched our cybersecurity product in the small business space called Security Edge. So we've partnered with Akamai, who is a leading vendor in this space, to bring this cloud-based solution to small businesses. Without extensive skill and expertise needed within that business, they can be automatically provisioned to defend against those common threats of phishing, malware, and botnet infections.
So that's great. So it can follow along. Now, how is it able to do that? How do you keep this up to date with all of these constantly evolving and changing attacks? That's such a hard thing to stay in front of.
Yeah, so with their Comcast Business router that they get with their internet connectivity, we use a combination of that device that's already in the business and this cloud-based solution to use data sciences that are occurring across the world and looking at threats and using artificial intelligence to understand, what the newest threats are, and it's updating this master database every 10 minutes. So a small business can't have that sort of enterprise level service with, they don't have the skills and technology, but we can bring it to them. And so they would get defended by those latest, threats that we're updating every 10 minutes.
This seems like a really good use case for artificial intelligence. We're always finding out about different ways it can be applied, but to manage that much data that's coming in, to update it every 10 minutes worldwide, I would imagine that's probably a really good use case. What are some other things that you think going forward that we'll be able to do to help prevent that when it comes to the cybersecurity space?
You mean in terms of machine learning and AI?
Yes.
I think, when you talk about the number of devices that everyone has, we're generating more and more data, and it's just simply not something a human could, go through and understand all these different threats. So the more and more devices that we have, the more connected we are, the more machine learning will allow us to use, all that information to crack down on cyber.
So with Security Edge out there now, what are some other things we can look forward to, or that Comcast Business in particular is working on in this space?
Yeah, so we have 2 cybersecurity products available right now. So Security Edge I spoke about. We also have DDoS mitigation service that is for our mid-sized businesses that have dedicated internet connectivity. And that's defending against denial of service attacks. So we are always monitoring and looking for denial of service attacks and automatically dropping or scrubbing that traffic and returning clean traffic to the customer so it doesn't impact business operations. We'll continue to further enhance and develop the life cycle of those products. And then we're also looking to add more advanced security functions to our active core software-defined networking platform. We're partnering with best-of-breed vendors like Fortinet to bring more next-generation firewall services to that platform that could go along with our SD-WAN product.
Well, it's got to be an exciting field to be in because it's constantly changing. I would imagine every day you show up and it's like, well, what's the new kind of attack today, and what are we dealing with? For those out there who want to utilize the services that Comcast Business offers, what's the best place for them to go?
Yes, go to comcastbusiness.com.
All right. Well, Cheetah, thank you so much for joining us. Very interesting conversation, very informative, and thanks for being here on Digital Trends Live.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so definitely, online security, no matter who you are, such a huge concern. And for small businesses out there, that statistic was really shocking. 60% could go under for that. So that is a huge issue if you are a small business out there. Pay attention to that. You need to figure out some solutions to help protect yourself from all of these cyber attacks that are going on. All right, we're going to continue on with Digital Trends Live. Coming up next, we have Davin Matthews, who was at the Adobe Max convention. We're going to talk about Photoshop for the iPad, what it means, what it looks like. He's used it. If you have questions, drop those in on whatever platform you are watching on. We'll make sure to refer those to Davin. We'll be back here in a minute with more Digital Trends Live.
Apollo 11, your go for separation.
TV is making history again. The groundbreaking Samsung QLED 8K.
Welcome back to Digital Trends Live. We are live. We're on a number of different platforms, so hit that share button, hit the subscribe button, drop in your comments, whatever you want to talk about. We appreciate that. And right now, though, we are going to be talking about Adobe Max and Photoshop for the iPad. I'm Greg Nibbler, joined by Davin Matthews. Hello.
Hey.
So I want to start off by asking you, what's Adobe Max?
So Adobe Max is Adobe's annual creativity conference.
Okay.
So it's basically their opportunity once a year to announce all the updates to their products, announce new products, and then they also just do a huge swath of classes and workshops. They
Nice.
have a kind of a pavilion floor with exhibitors there, so it's kind of like a mini trade show. But they bring in creatives from all around the world. There's press from all around the world there. I want to say it was something like 20,000 people this year, which
Wow.
was their biggest ever. So for a show that's one company show, it's a big show. It's a big deal.
Well, and it shows how, pervasive Adobe is just across all these different, I mean, not only media, but anything really, but media especially.
Yeah.
Between Photoshop and all of their editing software, I mean, it's just a huge, huge player.
And it just keeps getting bigger. One of the
Yeah.
new things they announced at this show was Photoshop Camera, which is an app for your phone that it's not really Photoshop,
Right.
but it allows you to very easily create these creative images thanks to AI. So Adobe's Sensei, that's the name of their AI engine. And they're working with Billie Eilish and a lot of other influencers and celebrities to come out with these cool filters and stuff. So they're expanding into all areas of possible creative markets.
Yeah.
It's no longer just the high-end professional markets.
No, it's huge. And that incorporation into smartphones when it comes to that, even just putting the Photoshop name on there, I mean, at this point, I mean, makes it
There's a
premium.
lot built into that name, yeah.
Yeah, already. But now it's talking about Photoshop in particular, bringing it to other devices, and the iPad being one that it had not previously been on.
Yeah, exactly. So Photoshop for iPad, they announced last year, but at this Max, they actually made it available. So you can go download it and install it on iPad today, or for the past week, it's been available. And there's a couple key things to know about it, and one is that this is true Photoshop in that it shares a code base with the desktop app.
Okay.
But it is not yet full Photoshop. So
Still not.
It's lacking a lot of features. It's kind of gotten panned in reviews on the App Store right now, kind of because of that. And you could make the argument that Adobe released it too soon, but I think you can also make the argument that it's kind of nice that they got it out there when it was, they had this first version available. So at least people can start using it, can start providing feedback. They're going to be updating it, all the time.
So constant updates coming to it. Now, why has it taken so long for this to come to the iPad?
I think a lot of it is that with Photoshop, you're dealing with code that was written over 20 years ago. And it's evolved a lot since then, obviously. But when you're looking at that code that was never intended to be brought over to a tablet, I think that probably just takes a long time to get that right. And that's true as well of a lot of the features. One thing I was reading is that the things that run as plugins within desktop Photoshop have to be completely remade for the iPad because it doesn't support the same plugin structure.
So it's rebuilding it essentially.
So it's rebuilding it. And they do have a new interface as well because like you see here with the Apple Pencil, they want to make it very responsive to touch inputs, to the pencil input. And obviously the interface needs to be a little different than what you have on the desktop. I think the other reason why people were maybe a little bit let down by this release is that there has been a great iPad alternative to Photoshop out there for a few years now. That's a program called Affinity Photo from a company called Serif. So they released an iPad version of their desktop photo editing software a while ago, and that's been doing pretty well. And so I get it. People have very high expectations of Adobe because they're Adobe. But I do think it's great that we finally have Photoshop running on iPad, a version that you can actually download. If you are already a Creative Cloud subscriber, there's no extra fee to use Photoshop on the iPad.
That's cool.
That's included with your normal subscription. If you're not a subscriber, I believe they have a 30-day free trial, so you can even just try it out. But right now, it's really the tools that they've included are some of the basic compositing tools. You get layers, adjustment layers, masking. You don't have a lot of the illustration tools. The paintbrush is there, but there's a lot of more advanced illustration tools that are lacking. A lot of the filters aren't in there yet. There's some photography basics like dodging and burning, which is a way of just localizing brightness adjustments. Those tools aren't in there yet.
That's kind of a strange one to have.
And that's probably one of those things that's going to get in there really quick. I mean, I think Adobe said they're planning pretty major updates kind of on like a monthly schedule and maybe even quicker.
So really, it seems like they really, and I want to go into some of the specific changes, but they really wanted to get this out quick.
Yeah, I think part of it was a big thing to be able to get out at Max, so I'm sure that was part of the push, wanting to get it out at that show. But yeah, it's hopefully having it out in the wild too will now motivate them to work on it even faster. So I think it can only get better from here, obviously.
What are some of the advantages of Photoshop compared to the one from Serif that you were talking about, Affinity?
It's hard to say because right now it's maybe not all there yet. But I think in general the biggest advantage is that when you have a company like Adobe, they're pouring so much R&D into AI right now, and there's a ton of new features that they've just been rolling out for their programs that are based on machine learning. And a lot of those aren't in Photoshop for iPad yet, but they are in Photoshop. So if you want to always be on the cutting edge, you want to have the latest tools, the latest abilities, those are the kind of things that are generally going to be in Adobe's ballpark, especially with Photoshop.
And something that people are used to as far as that suite of products.
Yeah, it is an industry standard. I think if you are an individual user, you could probably, I think Affinity Photo is an excellent program and probably everything you need for most people. But I think when you come to professional Photoshop users working in media or working in professional photo studios, that's just something that is so ingrained into their workflows. So being able to then take that, work with the same files on iPad. Adobe also introduced a new cloud save program, so they have cloud documents you can save from your iPad to the cloud, open it on the desktop, all your edits are there. Photoshop files are pretty big. I mean, they can be, easily a couple gigs. So
that's
that might take a while to sync over the cloud, but the option is there.
That's definitely a huge difference when it comes down to that. So if you can do that over the cloud, what are some other? I mean, just talking about we're talking about Photoshop coming to the iPad, courtesy of Adobe Max, and what was announced there. And Adobe did announce a lot of different things at that thing. Was there any other one particular thing that you were excited about?
Yeah. So there's a couple. One thing they do every year is a program called Sneaks, and they show off in-development technologies that aren't part of a product, maybe not even planned for a product yet. But it's just kind of what engineers are working on.
Which is kind of cool. They peel back the curtain a little bit and
Yeah,
show that.
it's really fun. It's always the people's favorite part of the show. And we did see a couple photography-related projects. One is called Project Light Right, which is a way of relighting a scene very realistically. So what this, and this is based on their Sensei AI engine. But basically what it does, if say you went to vacation somewhere, Eiffel Tower, and you took a picture, but you were there at the wrong time of day,
Lighting wasn't
the lighting
right.
was flat. What this will do is it can compare your photo to a collection of Eiffel Tower photos, and it can analyze the lighting and then adjust the look of your photo to mimic lighting from another day or another time of day. And it's fascinating. It is one of those things that depends on having this data set of other photos,
Right,
which is what we see a
something
lot
like the
with
Eiffel
AI.
Tower, sure,
Right, like if you don't, if I took a picture of you right now,
Right.
and I don't have a data set of photos of you
Yeah.
in the studio at other times, we're going to have an issue there. But
It's always this time in the studio.
probably what they continue to learn from that program will eventually be able to be extrapolated and hopefully apply a little more broadly. And that's why
so
these
you
things
say,
are
like
as
this time
projects.
of day, analyzing that. That's fascinating. I really want to see more use of that.
Yeah. So, and because one of the things is like if you want to relight a photograph, it's very, very hard to do.
Right. If it's wrong in the first place, it's going to be wrong.
Like there are Photoshop gurus out there who can do it, but it takes a lot of time. Yeah.
That's like recording audio. If your gain's too high when you record it,
oh yeah,
it's really hard to fix that afterward. That sounds like pretty similar to what the lighting issue would be. Well, definitely interesting. Sorry, going back to that, we're going off on a tangent there for a minute, but there's lots that you can read about at digitaltrends.com about all the announcements that came from Adobe Max, but talking about Photoshop for the iPad in particular. Pretty big for all of you iPad users out there, especially. Sounds like we're going to have a ton of updates, and I'm assuming we've got something written up at Digital Trends about it.
Yeah, so we have a good comparison between sort of what features you're getting and what you're still missing from the iPad version.
Very cool.
But yeah, if you're an iPad owner and you are a Creative Crowds subscriber, you're not really, taking any risks by getting it. So check it out.
So try it out. All right. Well, thank you so much, Davin, as always.
Yeah, thank you.
Bringing the information here, and thanks to everybody who's watching live right now on digitaltrends.com or whatever platform you are on. Coming up next, we have Steve Goody, the CEO of Pocket Radar. I am really interested to talk about this product that essentially brings radar detection and speed technology into your pocket. I mean, that really is it. So think about if you're trying to analyze how fast a baseball is or how fast your golf swing is. Well, now you can do it at home. So it's good for athletes, but also I feel like good for competitions if you want to challenge someone and say, how fast is your swing? That's what I would use it for, but that's probably not all the use cases. So we're going to discuss that. Steve's going to join us here on the show. So stick around, back here in a minute with more Digital Trends Live.
Apollo 11, your go for separation.
TV is making history again. The groundbreaking Samsung QLED 8K.
Welcome back to Digital Trends Live. Thank you so much for joining us wherever you find us. We do appreciate it. We broadcast live here across a number of different platforms. And since we're live, we can take your comments and questions as we go throughout the show. We've got some more interviews coming up, but let's talk about some more trending news right now, and let's go straight in to the robot apocalypse. Let's talk about this. We're all very familiar with Boston Dynamics robotics that they come out with their Spot dogs, but are you aware of the Cheetah dogs? So the Cheetahs are the mini Cheetah robots. These come from MIT, and this is their kind of version of that, something they're working on. They showcased this video recently of a number of them storming a lawn, or you think they're really amazing. I mean, they are. Let's talk about the tech side of it. The technology side is very, very fascinating. So what these are 20 pounds a piece. The RoboCats, they say, are remarkably versatile. They can use them for a number of different things, but that's part of the reason they're putting these out right now. Sorry, watching the video every time makes me laugh. What they're putting these out for is just to see what these can do. And they want developers to work on this. They want you to come up with what you think these can do. Clearly, they can play some soccer right there as they're stomping all over you. That's eventually what's going to happen. Watching right there, they can showcase how it can be turned over. It can instantly get back up. Something that's very useful if you think about different environments that it could be in. And this is one of the things that a lot of these types of robotics are being talked about for are industrial uses. So say it's a construction site or somewhere that humans can't get to. Another use case would be something for like a disaster area. Say there's a building that collapsed. A person can't get in there, but you could send something like this in with supplies, carrying things. That's unnerving too. But you can send these to a lot of different places, and the fact that it can knock over be knocked over, it can right itself. The tech side of this is really incredible, honestly, when you take a look at what it can do. So this is just a video showcasing some of this. And so, again, these are called the Mini Cheetah. And they said that a big part of why they built it, we actually talked to Benjamin Katz, a technical associate in MIT's Department of Mechanical Engineering, who said earlier this year that a lot of it is to get engineers to work on this, come up with different use cases. Here's the tech, here's what we created. What can you use it for? What can you think that it could be used for? And I think when you look at it from that aspect, it's pretty amazing where we're going with this as far as what we could end up with as autonomous robots, how we could use these in the workforce or maybe even a home robot. I don't know what the use case would be, but again, if you're an engineer, maybe you can come up with that. So take a look at that. You can check all of that out at digitaltrends.com and let us know what you think about the Mini Cheetah robot. All right, something else to keep you up to date on. So again, we're just talking about some other trending stories in the news. We were talking about SpaceX earlier, and SpaceX had their successful launch of the Falcon 9 rocket, deploying 60 more satellites earlier today, and really big achievement. But NASA is also working on their achievements, and this is something in particular they've been working on for a while. It's called the Maxwell X-57, and it's an electric plane. This is a big thing. There's a lot of companies trying to figure out electric planes. Now there's electric drones that are out there, but drones don't go very far. A plane would be something enormous just because of the fact that if you could really store that energy and travel a long distance with an electric plane, think about all the benefits of that. Less emissions, cheaper energy, all the things that would go along with that, but it's really, really hard to accomplish. This is showcasing some of the different experiments they've had in the past with this Maxwell line. And one of the big issues has to do with battery storage. And this is a huge thing for any kind of electric power. You need a battery big enough to store all of that energy, but not so big that you can't fly with it. And finding that balance is really, really tough. And that's part of what NASA's trying to do with this. You see, it's got a lot of propellers on there. And this is looking at some of what they're doing with it. So that would have 14 electric motors powered by lithium-ion batteries is where this would work. And what they've done is they actually showcased one of the newest versions of it. So they're planning to, this is the Maxwell Mod 2. So there's a Mod 3 and a Mod 4 that are going to be coming. But they're getting closer and closer to actually testing this out and seeing what they can do with this kind of technology. Again, an electric plane, this is something for the entire industry, whatever kind of travel industry you're talking about, whether it's vehicles, cars, but certainly in drones and in airplanes. And this is something that could be revolutionary if it can be something where you can store enough power to do it. So they're working on it. You have companies like Uber that are working on their drones. So a lot of people are trying to figure this out. But just a couple more things on the tech side of this thing and where this is being worked at. So one of the big feature components is a high aspect ratio wing. That's why they need a wing long enough to that once they get it up, each one of those things, you have 14 electric rotors. They're not as powerful, obviously, as a jet engine, so it's something that you have to balance out in order to keep it afloat. And that's what they're talking about, to get more lift. So there's a perfect example of it right there. And that's talking about this electric Maxwell X57 and what they're doing with that. So something that you could certainly check out at digitaltrends.com, but pretty exciting stuff that they're doing there. All right, one other trending story here, and then we're going to take a break, and then we're going to come back with another interview for you here on Digital Trends Live, because we like to keep you up to date with trending technology. Let's talk about space a little bit more. How about it? And one of the things that gets brought up frequently is how much space junk there is in orbit around the Earth. And there's a lot. I mean, there are thousands of different pieces of space debris, but some of them are big enough that we might be able to actually do something with them. And that's what part of this announcement that we have has to do with. So it's a Canadian space launch startup called Maritime Launch Services, MLS. And they partnered with a commercial space services company called NanoRacks. And what they want to do is develop a way to utilize old rocket parts in space and build things out of them. So you're seeing right there, you've got these robots that are attached to this fairing that's up in space. And then what it's doing, in theory, it would gather old rocket components and then build new things out of them. Things like new space stations. They mentioned possibly hotels. You could have orbital facilities, research centers, storage depots, like all kinds of different things that you could do with these. But it's taking advantage of all of that stuff that's in space already, which, number one, gets rid of a huge amount of cost, because somebody else already sent it up there. They're probably not utilizing it, so it's probably free when it comes down to it as far as grabbing it, and then using it to piece together whatever you can make up. Pretty great idea. Pretty good use of stuff that is already up in space. However, it's a little ways out. You're a ways out before we'll actually have the technology to really do this, but they're working on it right now. The key thing is finding components that would be able to work together, or being able to adapt or modify them while you're in space in order to actually have somebody live in them. And that's one thing that's a pretty big obstacle to overcome, but still really cool way to be thinking about that. And space junk's something we've covered extensively here at Digital Trends in different ways that people are trying to manage it or remove it or get it out of there before it becomes a huge issue. Well, this is something that's actually utilizing some of it for a positive goal and taking advantage of some of that. It's a scrapper in space, essentially, where you're grabbing these things and making something new out of them. Pretty cool idea. Again, that's that partnership between those two companies. So you can check that out at digitaltrends.com and let us know what you think about that and where you think it could go. All right, we will continue on here with the show. We've got a lot going on. We're going to take a break, and then we're going to be coming back, and we're going to be talking to Pocket Radar. We've got Steve Goody, the CEO of Pocket Radar. We're going to talk about their product, talk about speed technology, talk about testing. How fast is your swing? Different things that you can utilize their technology for. All of that's coming up. We're broadcasting live. Drop in your comments and questions. Back here in a minute with more Digital Trends Live.
Apollo 11, your go for separation.
TV is making history again. The groundbreaking Samsung QLED 8K.
And this is Digital Trends Live. Thank you for watching. Whatever platform you're watching on, whenever you're watching, we do appreciate it. But we do broadcast live every single weekday at 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern. So you can hit that subscribe button as well and get the notification when we do go live. We'd like to keep you up to date on the world of technology, including new different techniques that you can utilize at home and different ways that technology is democratizing some things that maybe a lot of us didn't used to have access to. And I'm talking about Pocket Radar right now. We have Steve Goody who's joining us. Steve, thank you very much for being on the show. I'm really excited to talk about your product. I think it's fascinating. But first off, thanks for being here.
Thanks, Greg. We appreciate it.
So
fun to be on the show.
If we can give everybody just kind of a background on what Pocket Radar is and maybe what problems that you saw in the marketplace that you tried to solve and kind of get the backstory.
Sure, glad to do that. So we make basically pocket-sized radar guns that are about 4 ounces, fit in your pocket. We've been doing that for about a decade. We have 8 different products. And we, over 10 years ago, looked at the market and said, radar guns seem to only be able to use in sports and other applications by people that have a lot of money or big programs and institutions like, D1 colleges, professional baseball teams, traffic engineers. And we thought, we're all engineers. I think we can redesign this and, make this affordable for the masses, make it a fraction of the cost, make it professional grade and accurate. Basically, redesign something that hadn't been touched in 50 years, literally, as far as engineering. And we did that. And thankfully, now there's a lot of people out there benefiting from the democratization of the radar gun, if you will.
Yeah, I mean, that's such a huge accomplishment right there. I mean, and talking about the technology side of things, it seems like this was just such an overbearing tech that there's no way you could ever make that something that's, pocket-sized or down to that level. What were some of the big engineering challenges that you had?
Well, I mean, obviously the biggest challenge was how do we get this thing to fit inside your pocket, be the size of a small cell phone?
Yeah.
And these other things, I think most people have seen the radar guns in movies. They're big, giant things that weigh maybe a few pounds, and and they're rather large, and they cost several $1,000s. And basically, the engineering involved to do that was really tricky because we run on little AAA batteries, so they're low power, where the bigger guns run on a lot higher power, and we have a smaller antenna to get a little technical. So we ended up actually about halfway through, almost giving up. It was so hard, but out of that perseverance, we ended up getting several patents that have been granted now on the techniques. So that breakthrough really allowed us to change the entire way that radar is designed, yet have the same accuracy or better than any other of the old style guns, and far more convenient and easy to use, and just better in every way.
Let's talk about actual use case scenarios with it. Like how, maybe let's walk through how you use it first. Because like you said, like I picture the old school, you got the big gun there, you know, it's the police officer on the side of the road with a giant gun or the guy behind the batting cage. So we're not doing that anymore. So how is it that it's actually utilized?
Well, it looks, you had a picture there on the screen, I think, that showed the audience, but it's about the size of a smaller cell phone, not the bigger cell phones. And you basically aim it the same way you aim when you're taking a video or a picture with your cell phone. So you hold it up vertically, like you see there, it's mounted on a stand. And you aim it toward the picture on the mound if you're doing a baseball game, or down the street if you're doing a car, or you can have it in a batting tunnel for measuring exit velocities if you're trying to hit better. As you can tell, our dominant use right now is in sports, but the product is used in a lot of different sports and for other applications involving traffic engineering, traffic safety as well. So you just sort of use it very much like a cell phone. You point and shoot it. It gives you an accurate speed within 1 mile per hour, and it stores them away. And our newest product, the Smart Coach, has now an app and a whole user account, so you can save it and do video clips like you're seeing in some of this material you're showing, where you can shoot your own videos for player development if you're trying to get better, or recruitment. So a lot of our new users really love this new product we've had out, the Smart Coach Radar, over the last year, because it allows you to sort of own your own speed records and create videos with them and do what you will with them for sharing or recruiting. It's really a powerful platform now, not just a radar gun.
Yeah, that's a treasure trove of information that you can get off of something like that.
Oh, yeah.
Tracking a ball in real time like that, I mean, I would imagine that takes an incredible amount of processing power. Can we take a look just behind the hood just a little bit about what it takes for that?
Yeah, we have, there's multiple microprocessors and different software elements to the system. It was quite hard to do that, to put it in such a small package and run off such a low power, because you don't have the benefit of a big, powerful computer. So yeah, the software and the processing is quite a challenge to get a ball out of the hand for a pitcher or off a bat. I mean, these things are happening so fast. When you want to capture an accurate velocity on that ball after it just moves a short distance out of the hand of the pitcher or off the the bat barrel when you're hitting the ball. It was quite a challenge, and that was part of the extra work we had to go through to figure out how to do that accurately and consistently and reliably. And fortunately, we've learned quite a bit about it now. We're getting better all the time, and we'll be doing even more innovations around that. But that know-how has proven to be very useful for us and how to do it at lower cost. So it was quite a fun engineering challenge, actually.
That's got to be, I mean, a technology like this is always disruptive to whatever the current industry is. I mean, this is definitely something like that. This is innovative. This is changing up the way things are done and lowering the cost. What's the reception been like through the traditional channels and traditional users of this? Maybe it's Major League Baseball or colleges, like you said. How's that reception been?
It's been fantastic. I mean, it took, honestly, the first 5 years was getting people to believe that it was really as good as it appeared to be. It was almost too good to be true because it was so radically different. People, inadvertent, called it a toy. That lasted for a few years, and it was pretty frustrating. But after that, and when I put it in the hands of Major League Baseball and top college coaches and across multiple sports, and you do a side-by-side comparison to something that costs thousands of dollars, literally, that's a fraction of the cost, and you see that is indeed matching those products, then you get the wow factor. And so after the word spread, we've been probably the best-selling accurate sports radar gun in the world now. I'm going to the winter meetings next month. All the MLB teams use our product, all the way down to little league teams. So and everything in between. So it's a lot of people that wouldn't have access to this great data to get access to data in their programs as well, or individuals.
What's one of the craziest uses of it that you've heard so far?
Wow, we've had some strange uses for I think one of the early uses was weird. An educational program that was looking at conservation in Africa was wanted a bunch of them for measuring cheetah running speeds on the open, Serengeti in Africa. And we thought they were kidding, but they really went over and did research and measured cheetah peak running speeds with one of our earlier models. Then we've had all kinds of other unusual applications for science and some pretty strange stuff out there. But anything that moves, within a certain speed range, our product can measure it accurately. So it's been fun to watch people sort of apply it in different ways. Especially fun to see how it's made a difference in a lot of people's lives, especially in saving lives with traffic safety and sports, people getting scholarships, and that's the best part of this, is to see that you're putting tools and systems in front of people that it really makes a difference in their lives, and that's the best part of this.
Yeah, it's got to be so cool just finding out how people are trying this out and what different use cases. I mean, cheetahs in Africa, that's crazy. That had to be really interesting to hear about.
that was really that was fun, and that was weird. But now it's every day talking to people in MLB or high school or parents that are trying to get their child up to get a college scholarship maybe, and they need to learn how to hit more powerfully or throw more powerfully, or they need to create video record of that best pitch or that best hit. Now they can just on their phone, like social media, send that clip off to a coach or put it on Facebook for the family to share. But now it's just it's entered the modern era now, where our platform is pretty much, for an athlete, is just as easy to use as any application on their phone. If you have the device, you got to have the magic hardware to go with it. But once you do, it's just like anything on your smartphone now.
Well, I want to tell people where to go to get the hardware. Before I do that, just looking forward to the future, now that you have this and you've got this suite of products, where do you see some of the use cases being like going forward, maybe a few years?
Well, we've introduced products on a really frequent basis. That's why we have 8 over 10 years. So the way we do that is we a lot of companies struggle with this, but we spend a lot of effort listening to our customers, our coaches, our parents, our athletes, and any features they want, like the video with speed, for example, in the current model, or running on the smartphone. These are things that our customer told us from the previous generation product. And so in some ways, we don't know exactly what we're going to do, but we know we're going to do something innovative. We listen. So any new measurables that people care about, we're going to figure out a way to measure those with the radar, and or other applications in the software. They may want to make the software do something more powerful on their phone. So all that innovation, we very much guided by what our customers sort of put at the top of their list. We listen to everybody. So we're going to be innovating constantly. We're growing. So I can't wait to see sort of what we put out next. It's going to be a lot of more interesting and fun technology as we go forward.
That's fun to be so responsive to what customers are asking, to know what they're looking for, and then have to figure out the engineering problem of how to solve that.
Yeah, as an engineer, that's my favorite thing to do, because often you don't get to do that as a technologist very often, where I'm really front and center, close to the customer. being one of the co-owners and one of the engineers and the CEO, I get to spend a lot of time interacting with our customers for, both for, getting feedback and for promoting the product. So it's great to be able to get that close to solving people's problems. It's not something that a technical person gets to do that frequently, but it's what we really love to do.
Well, Steve, for everybody out there who wants to utilize this, find out more information, what's the best place for them to go?
Our website's the best, pocketradar.com, but we also sell on Amazon and Dix, different models. So you can also go to, a lot of people like to look at reviews on Amazon to get a feeling of the quality and other people's experiences. That's a great spot to go, but in-depth information, pocketradar.com is our website, and you can go there and learn about it, see videos and testimonials from MLB people and little leaguers and, everybody in between for different sports. So definitely encourage people to do that. Hopefully they'll see what a powerful tool this can be. A lot of people don't know that radar is a very useful tool for, even if you're an amateur and you're just learning to play, you can do some amazing learning stuff with radar, as opposed to, you don't have to be a big baseball scout.
Right. Yeah, you can use it in the backyard and figure out
the backyard,
some
learn how to hit better, learn how to throw better, and this kind of thing.
Well, it's really interesting technology. We love talking to innovators and people solving problems and figuring things out. And I want to say thank you so much for joining us here on Digital Trends Live.
You're welcome. Really, really great to be here. I love telling people about what we've done and how it can help them out too.
Congratulations.
Thanks, Greg.
All right, so learning about that's so fascinating to me, figuring out a problem and then trying to solve it and working on the engineering side of it and listening to people and what they want. Interesting stuff when it comes to technology, and we love talking about that. We've got more coming up, though, so here's the deal. We're going to take a break, and this is how fast this show moves. We're going to talk to somebody else. We've got Danny Cushion, the Chief Marketing Officer for Cardlytics, coming up, talking about some statistics when it comes to buying. What are we all buying? When are we buying things? That's kind of important. It has to do with what we're all doing, so we're going to be discussing that and more coming up here on Digital Trends Live.
Apollo 11, your go for separation.
TV is making history again. The groundbreaking Samsung QLED 8K.
Welcome back to Digital Trends Live. Thank you for joining us. We appreciate it. Wherever you're watching, hit that subscribe button, share it. That is always a great thing that you can do. I'm Greg Nibbler, and it's now time to talk about some statistics and some analyzation about what's going on with what we are buying. We have the perfect person to do that. We have Danny Cushion from Cardlytics. Hello, thanks for being back.
Hi, Greg. Good to see you again.
Good to see you, too. All right, so for everybody watching who may not know, can we get a little bit of background on Cardlytics, too, just to bring them up to speed?
Sure. Yep. So Cardlytics is a company that runs a lot of cashback rewards programs for the major banks in the United States and the UK. So if think Chase offers, Bank of America deals, whomever you bank with, if you see sort of cashback rewards in your mobile app or online, that's all Cardlytics that runs that. And in turn, we bring advertising in to consumers and give them cashback on stuff they like to buy. What we like to do, though, is we aggregate all of the purchase data that we get from the banks, and we use that to help our marketers that we work with understand how consumer shopping trends are happening and what's happening so that they can plan their marketing accordingly. So with the banks that we work with, we see about $2.8 trillion in purchase data across debit, credit, ACH and bill pay, and we put out regular spend trends to try to keep a finger on the pulse of how consumers are actually shopping.
Well, that is a lot of information to handle right there, 2.8 trillion. So with all of that information that you're getting, let's talk about some numbers and some different trends that you're seeing right now.
So we just put out our 5th annual holiday spend trends. And so it's interesting with Thanksgiving and Black Friday and Cyber Monday so much later this year. We've been getting a lot of questions around what is going to happen to the retail shopping period. Interestingly, when we look at our data, holiday shopping has already begun. And we're looking at purchase data from really last year over 2017. We're consistently analyzing what's happening right now as well. But if you look at when consumers are actually starting their holiday shopping, it's actually right after Halloween. And as much as we can joke about the fact that it's too early, stuff is in store, I bought some stuff for the holidays because I'm thinking about it, it's convenient. And so the holiday shopping season has really stretched out over time, and it's already begun.
Is that a trend because retailers are offering better deals earlier, or is it just that people just want to get ahead of the thing?
Honestly, I think it's a little bit of both. That could be a chicken and egg kind of question. What we see is we look really closely also at back to school spending and what's happening around Amazon Prime Day, which I think we've talked about. Mm-hmm. And with Amazon Prime Day and week being set up a few years ago, it actually has really pulled a lot of spend forward. I do think it comes down to a couple of things. I think part of it is convenience. I think a lot of the marketers that we work with are taking advantage of the fact that consumers are ready to buy early. If consumers were not ready to buy, sales wouldn't happen and we wouldn't need to market that early. But what's happening is consumers are ready to get ahead of it. It's a little bit of a chicken and the egg, but marketers are taking advantage of it. You've already seen Walmart and Target and others come out with really powerful early promotional marketing campaigns to try to capture that spend, because 40% of holiday spend happens before Black Friday, which is a lot.
Wow.
It's a lot. So if you're not doing it early, you are missing out on holiday spend.
Well, I noticed in there, it talked about some of the statistics. You mentioned omni customers as far as that was in the show there. Can you talk about what that means?
Sure. So the way that we look at it with the purchase data that we see both online and in-store purchases. So it's really interesting to look at a retailer and see if a customer is actually spending with them in-store or online or both. And what it turns out is if you have a customer spending both in-store and online with you, they actually spend twice as much in the holiday period versus those that just spend within one channel. And so what's really interesting about that is there are a lot of brands that are really starting to get it very right as far as trying to drive that cross-channel shopping behavior. Mm-hmm. But still, there are only about 10% of the brands that we see on our platform with all of the purchase data that we see really taking advantage of it. Only about 10% of brands have customers shopping with them both ways, both in-store and online. So there's a huge amount of headroom for marketers who can understand how to really get their e-commerce presence right, how to think about doing a buy online, ship to store type of strategy. The brands that are doing this well are the ones that are really winning in the holiday season.
So I think that's really interesting, making that distinction with that kind of balance and having both of those. Looking at globally, I know today is a huge day for shopping with Singles Day, and we talked about that earlier in the show.
The numbers have been incredible. It's incredible.
Do you know what the numbers have been finally? Because it was still happening when we started.
I didn't see the final. When I read this morning, it was I think it was just pushing $1 trillion. Was it? It was high. But I could be wrong. That could have been the retail holiday overall, but I'd have to look. But it's just super interesting. And I mean, Alibaba, like in Amazon, they have so much power to really raise the whole tide. And I think from what we see with Amazon Prime Day, but also Singles Day, it just brings shopping to the fore for everybody. They're obviously winning because they're driving a ton of commerce, but so are other brands. Other brands are drafting off that type of activity. And if you have your e-commerce presence in place, you're going to get some of those sort of secular trends of people shopping.
Do you think that's something that would spread to the U.S. or at all, like this kind of Singles Day?
I think we've got it already with Amazon Prime. I think if we ended up having a new kind of shopping holiday around the holidays, the Amazon led, Perhaps. I think they're already doing it though. And I think interestingly, when we look at spend is happening, it's pulling both earlier and paradoxically later. So where Black Friday and Cyber Monday used to be a really big spike in the middle of when spend was happening, it's not that it's gone down, it's just the spend has really more flattened out over the period. So could another sort of fabricated shopping holiday come in and change things again? Maybe. Maybe Amazon has a ton of power in driving consumer shopping behavior. But I think we've actually seen consumers are ready to buy earlier, but they're also really still going into brick and mortar locations later because they want to be sure they can go and pick up what they need and not have to rely on shipping. Even though it's gotten better, we still see a pretty interesting bump at the end of the season of people going back into a store where, quite frankly, almost 80% of holiday spend still happens.
Wow. Well, it's fascinating to know and just see these trends. And we are, like you said, we're in the middle of it now. It's already happening. So, so follow along. For people who want to review the report that you put out, which is so great, so valuable, and so much information, where can they go to get it?
Yep, you can just go on cardlytics.com, cardlytics.com. You can follow us on social. We put out regular spend trends across different seasons with all different types of verticals and everything. So it's we like to geek out on our data and tell stories with what we see happening. So it's interesting to keep a finger on the pulse.
Well, Danny, as always, thank you so much for joining us to talk about this and bring us up to speed with what's going on. We'll definitely talk to you after this is over. I want to know what the results are.
We're crunching numbers now, so that sounds great.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Greg.
All right, always fascinating finding out what people are doing and bringing up the Alibaba thing just with Singles Day and what that could mean. But I think she's right. Amazon's kind of got that locked down a lot on what's going on over here. All right, we continue on here with Digital Trends Live, and we're going to wrap up what we've been talking about today. So I just want to bring up some of the things that we've covered. Again, thank you to everybody who's joined us on the show. We are live here every single weekday. Coming up tomorrow, let's talk about that. Tomorrow we've got, well, of course, Disney Plus. That's going to be huge, what we're going to be discussing, and Disney Plus and what they're going to be bringing to the table. We'll find out more information today on what's going to be happening with that. We'll also have our own Bill Oakley. Bill Oakley, who's going to be on the show. So Bill is one of the original showrunners of The Simpsons. The Simpsons is going to be available on Disney Plus, and that is Bill's going to be on here talking about his run on there and some of his favorite episodes from The Simpsons. That's huge, and he's going to be here in studio with us walking through that. So that's going to be a great segment here on the show. We also have Forum Labs making announcements on a new vertical of 3D printing, and we'll have David Lakatos, their chief product officer, on to discuss what new directions they're taking resin printing, what that could mean. We'll have Dr. Daniel Daneshvar, a medical advisor at Teaching Aids, will be on to discuss concussion protocols in football and how early childhood education can be the best prevention. And Riggs Eckelberry, the CEO and founder of Origin Clear, will be on to talk about their agricultural water recycling solution. So all of that, and as usual, we're always live here on Digital Trends across a number of platforms. So hit that subscribe button, get the notification when we go live, and we'll be back tomorrow, live, 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern, with more news for you.